Hey everyone! Recently we released a guide analyzing how Bjergsen set up a clean all-in as a Kali against Ahri. He was primarily able to accomplish this by controlling the wave at a very high level. For those of you who don't know, on our website at Skillcapped we set you on a mission to try these strategies where you can then upload them and get feedback every week. Today's guide is from our website where we analyzed replays from our Skillcapped subscribers, breaking down the common low ELO mistakes that can happen when trying Bjergsen's wave control techniques, alongside providing lots of extra tips to help you climb. Let's get into it. Today we'll be going over replays submitted by those of you who went and tried the tactic of bouncing waves for slow pushes. In this video, we'll be covering what people did well, along with the common mistakes you guys made, and how to overcome them. Alright, let's get started. Our first replay comes from GoldieLowe with Katarina against Zed. To start the laning phase, Zed gets an early push lead on Katarina. With the minion advantage that Zed has acquired, he's going to hit level 2 first on the next wave. We need to concede control of the lane, let it slow push into the tower to bounce it back towards the enemy. Essentially, we'll be giving up the level 2 advantage. As we're walking back to lane, we can see Zed on the minimap hard shoving the wave into our tower, which breaks the slow push. The minion wave ends up crashing as we arrive at our tower. However, you make a mistake using so many of your abilities. If we go back, let's look at the state of the minions. Zed hard pushed the wave instead of slow pushing it, which has now caused our own minions to get caught on his minions under the tower. Remember, if we go back to Bjergsen's replay, we can see how similar these minion structures look. Once again, this is the key structure that allows us to bounce the wave back and slow push. In this position, there's no rush to clear this wave. We want our minions to get caught on it so that we can begin slow pushing a big wave to Zed. While the wave is slow pushing, we can use our level lead to go aggressive on Zed and take winning trades. As you can see, you're now level 4 to his level 3, but all your abilities are on cooldown, preventing you from being able to threaten a trade. Now the other key mistake you're making is that you don't fully understand how to trade with Katarina into Zed. Let's watch this trade and I'll break down how you could have potentially killed him. So the mistake you're making is you're leading with your Q ability as Katarina. That's one way to engage, but the other one, which is much more consistent, is to engage with your E into W combo. This drops a dagger right on top of the enemy, then after you use W, you press Q, which will drop a dagger behind the enemy's location, the likely path that they retreat, which you can follow up with another E. When Zed uses his W here, you should be using your E to engage, into using your own W. Bonus points if you can time your E to dodge Zed's shurikens. Then, wait half a second to see if Zed will swap with a shadow to dodge your W, then cast your Q. This way, it's guaranteed you will land one of your dagger pickups while dodging his Q ability and winning the trade. Instead, you can see how trying to engage with Q on a slippery champion like Zed results in you missing your dagger pickups on him. Our next replay comes from GoldieLowe with Syndra facing Xerath. You start the game unfortunately taking some poke while you go to place an early pixel brush ward. This was caused by your positioning. The enemy top laner can actually see you standing there. Try not to stand in that position as it's extremely risky. Instead, stand far back watching the entrance here. This way, you can safely retreat if the enemy invades. Then as it gets close to the 120 mark, move in and hug the wall, placing a ward in the edge of the brush, then backing off. So you get into lane and you're already a potion down against Xerath, definitely not ideal. Our main goal at level 1 against Xerath is stay away from our minion line. We don't want Xerath to be able to land his Q on both us and the minions. This would allow him to get both harass on us while also getting a push advantage. So for example, this is bad positioning, as he can land a Q on you and the entire minion wave. This is much better, standing towards the side of your minions, as he has to choose between pushing or harassing you. However, you then go back to poor positioning, and you can see how by standing on your caster minions, Xerath is able to throw a Q that forces you to dodge while also damaging the minions. This is why we don't want to stand in our minion line. Now that Xerath has used his Q, we want to punish him, knowing the enemy's cooldowns is a key skill in laning. Xerath's Q is on a 9-second cooldown at level 1, and Syndra's Q is on a 4-second cooldown, so we can land 2 Syndra Qs for every one of Xerath's. You do a good job going aggressive while Xerath's Q is on cooldown. We can also see how positioning yourself outside of the minion wave in the next trade is a big help here. When you dodge Xerath's Q while landing your own Q, he didn't get damage on your minions like before, whereas you actually damaged his minions. It's this kind of high level trading that makes the difference. With Xerath's Q on a 9-second cooldown, you recognize you can move in to land an additional Q. This is great stuff. If we look at the minion wave, we can see that you have the minion lead and are going to secure level 2 first. In fact, you'll always hit level 2 on the first melee minion on the second wave, so when this melee minion dies, you'll spike level 2 on him. We should be looking to play towards this timing window. However, you're playing very far back when you should be much more forward when you last hit this minion. That way, you'll spike level 2 and can land a winning trade on him. This was a missed opportunity. Now, you have the level advantage and the slow push building. You want to be positioning aggressive, harassing him when he goes for last hits. You make the mistake of throwing your Q when you should be waiting to time the Q with the enemy's last hits. If we go back, we can see Xerath just used his Q and it's now on cooldown for 9 seconds, so it will be up at 220. You can see how he goes for this auto attack on the minion at 217, but your Q ability is still on cooldown from before, so you can't punish him. When an enemy auto attacks a minion, their character is stationary. This was your opportunity to land a Q into E, into auto attack combo, into another Q, completely destroying Xerath and likely winning you the early laning phase. Instead, he's now level 2 and you didn't get much done with your level 2 power spike. If we look at the minion wave, we can see that it's slow pushing towards Xerath. More importantly though, is that the next wave will be arriving very soon. We know this by checking your own minion wave, which is at our outer tower, which means the enemy wave is in the same position. This means we can't push this wave fast enough before the next wave catches it outside the tower since it's so close. Our goal should now be to hard shove the next wave. This will create a recall timing for us. Remember, we've already used a potion earlier, meaning we only have one potion left. That won't be enough to survive against Xerath. Creating a recall timing on this next wave is just what we need. Xerath then uses his abilities to try and thin out the wave. You recognize this as a timing window to go aggressive and land your Q, E, and an auto attack to activate your electrocute. However, you continue trading. The problem is, the next minion wave is coming in and is aggroing directly onto you. You're tanking 3 melee minions, a caster minion, and a siege minion. This results in you losing the trade despite Xerath only using auto attacks. Never take extended trades past the minion line when the next minion wave is coming in, especially in the early game. That being said, more importantly is to think about what our goal was. We wanted to shove this wave in order to create a recall timing. You need to be auto attacking the minions and throwing out your Q on Xerath that's standing in his minion line. And now you can see the results of these mistakes adding up. You didn't push fast enough, and now the next wave has arrived and you're overextended in mid lane near half health, with no more health pots and your early vision expiring. You can still recover this though. Once again, you need to just hard shove this wave with your abilities into recalling. Instead, you don't recognize this opportunity and are still trying to lane against Xerath. This results in you being ganked and killed after a long chase. If we go back, we can see this was a key moment when you didn't recognize that pushing the wave and recalling was a better option than trying to harass Xerath, especially with the wave coming in. If you had just saved your abilities to hard push this wave, you'd cause it to bounce back to you, arriving back in lane to pick up a big minion wave and have an item advantage on Xerath. Also, some of you may be thinking that recalling this early seems pointless as you couldn't buy anything. If you perfectly last hit the first 3 waves, you'll gain 375 gold. Additionally, you gain 20 gold per 10 seconds once the minions spawn. This approximates to around an additional 240 gold. So in total, if you recall after the first 3 minion waves, you can have up to 615 gold. That's enough to buy a corrupting pod or a dark seal with a refillable potion. Recalling on the 3rd minion wave is completely viable and something pros have done many times, so don't be afraid to do it yourself if you have the opportunity to do so. Our next replay comes from Bronzy Lowe with Twisted Fate against Ahri. Throughout the laning phase, you do a great job using your cards to both harass Ahri, but also thin out the wave using the red card's AoE on minions. This helps combat the push that Ahri is doing while keeping the wave frozen outside of your tower. This culminates with landing a successful gank on the low health overextended Ahri. Now, we want to shove in this wave and recall. Take note of how big this wave is that you're pushing. When a wave is this big, it's going to cause it to bounce off the tower and slow push back to you. This makes for an ideal recall timing, just like we covered in the Go Try It video, as the enemy will have to clear the whole wave at the tower, not letting them deny you any CS. The wave will start slow pushing back to you after doing this, which will set you up for a freeze if you want to set up an all-in like Bjergsen did, or just set up another gang for Nunu. So right after you finish pushing, you should be immediately recalling to take advantage of this window. Instead, you move around the map placing wards and then recalling. This results in you having to use teleport while also missing an entire wave. This is a huge mistake. Getting clean recall timings is so important and you need to take advantage of them. You could have saved your teleport's cooldown, not lost a wave, and simply placed your ward down later on once you're back in lane. Alright, so that's it for this one. Please let us know how you like our low ELO analysis versus the standard high ELO gameplay we typically bring you, alongside anything else you'd like to see us cover here at Skillcapped. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.